Hello and welcome back to another exciting episode on Solving the People Puzzle, where on a monthly basis we bring you exciting content and insights from the HR community. Today I'm joined in studio by the head of talent management from Capitec Bank. Now, for those of you who don't know Capitec, what a phenomenal brand. And Suzanne was an incredible guest. We spoke about talent acquisition, the experience of the candidates, the mobility of talent within their organization, the initiatives and the projects that they embark on to move people proactively around, so proactive succession management. And then we ended the conversation off with some future trends and what Capitec is looking at to equip their future world of work. So sit back, relax. If you have not yet done so, please, would you be so kind as to hit the like and subscribe button, leave us a comment, give us feedback. We always love to hear from the audience, and enjoy the episode. Cheers. Suzanne Liebenberg, Head of Talent Management at Capitec. It is such an honor and a privilege to have you on Solving the People Puzzle podcast, where on a monthly basis, we bring our HR audience valuable insights and context from prestige leaders such as yourself. So thank you so much for being on the pod. How are you?
Francois, thank you so much for having me. I think what a wonderful platform to have HR leaders come together and really just talk and discuss and engage. So privileged to be here. I am doing well. I'm on Cape Town side. It's cold, but it's good. It's
And
good.
it's raining and flooding and it's chaos and a disaster zone. Geez, our prayers and thoughts go out to all the Cape Townian friends and colleagues and clients.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. But we're thankful. You know, there are some areas that's really appreciative of the rain, but
Yeah.
doing well on this side in Cape Town and excited to be here.
Amazing. Suzanne, as always, we start off the episode by allowing the guest just to share a bit about yourself. So I recently just mentioned, if you missed it, audience member, head of talent management at Capitec. But yeah, Suzanne, just a brief overview to position yourself and your experience and your role.
Thank you so much, Francia, for the opportunity. So I like to call myself a talent enthusiast, born
Nice.
and bred at heart. Just absolute passion for people.
Mm,
I've been in the talent game now for 14 years, believe it or not. I get to work at Capitec, an
nice.
amazing company where we really just provide opportunities to individuals to live their passion in careers of their choice. So in the 14 years, I think just highlights and what I can remember is one of the best things in the world to me is being able to call someone and telling them that they have been successful
Oh,
for an opportunity at Capitec. I'm one of those individuals, whether I'm at a restaurant, whether I'm with my family, if you spot somebody that you do believe can fit within the organization,
mm,
there is an engagement.
mm.
It's something that's born and bred within me. And I have a phenomenal team that I can work with, and we make people's dreams come true. So, what a great job.
Geez, that sounds so inspirational. And I love that you use the words, I get to work at Capitec. I know that was intentional. And I think often, when we look at the world of work and hiring and working with people and talents, I think we often forget that it is a privilege. And that is also a choice. I often tell people at Whamley, our employees, that Whamley is not a jail. You should really want to be here, and if not, speak up. So I love that positioning. Suzanne, so much to talk about when we hear the word talent and talent management. I mean, so many touch points in the employee life cycle, but I would love for us in this episode to double click on talent acquisition. And particularly if we consider what's going on now, we're on our way to Cape Town next week to speak about HR trends. We've been doing a lot of research and reading and obviously engaging with our clients on a daily basis. There's such a huge emphasis on the experience of the candidates. And I would love to hear from you, especially because the pod is around being practical and giving tools and tips and techniques back to the audience. What is the Capitec hiring experience like from both talent as well as candidates?
What a great question. I'm actually going to start off with, if that's all right, just
Of course.
sharing a little bit about the challenge. So where it started, I think so many HR colleagues are experiencing challenges in terms of scarce and critical skills. So we know that there
Mm,
is a very high demand, a big shift. that is happening from an acquisition perspective. Then to your point, there's a big shift that everybody is aware of, where it's no longer the interview where we say to a candidate, why should we hire you? It's about selling us as an organization
Yes.
and aligning purpose to skill sets and capabilities.
Sure.
And then I think, thirdly, it's about providing an experience where it's quick, fast, and efficient. But now some of the challenges and maybe where it started for us, and I do have to note, I'm sharing this, I believe, amazing story. It actually started about 3 years ago, so I'm sharing it on behalf of my colleagues that started the strategy and engagement and built and delivered it, and I have the privilege to share the story. But
Amazing.
essentially, as Capitec is exponentially growing, we have a lot of interest. We've got a fantastic employer brand. And just to give you an indication, last year, in terms of our financial year, we've hired almost 4,600 individuals.
Oh my word.
So, yes.
Across multiple roles, I assume?
Absolutely. So across
Sure.
multiple roles, and approximately 20% of that is within our tech and data skill set and environment.
Sure.
Now, because we have such high interest in terms of coming to work with Capitec, given our phenomenal brand, we also know that we want to hire the best. One of our pillars for us in terms of hiring is to make sure that we keep to the standard that we deem Capitec. So part of our EVP is to say that you get to come and work with the best professionals that exists within South Africa. So we said, right, we need to have these high volumes in terms of interest, phenomenal brand. We've got this high standard. Because we're a financial institution, we have an extremely robust process.
Mm.
It starts with what we call our culture screener. And
Okay.
what that does, and that is one of the first key pillars and differentiation items in terms of our hiring experience, is that we would like to attract and hire individuals that aligns to our culture. Our culture in terms of people, delivery, and of course, having a client-driven mindset.
Sure.
So that is the first hurdle, if you can call it that.
And I want to stop you right there.
Yes.
I if I may, I've seldomly come across people who start a hiring process or organizations who start a hiring process with culture and values first. Like often that's quite at the end of the hiring journey if you're focused or zoomed in on it at all. Like some organizations don't even do that. These values are just a beautiful picture or a poster up somewhere in the office or on the website. But to start there, that's super interesting for me. And then secondly, I'd love for you to just quickly share how. Is it an interview? Is it a questionnaire? Is it part of the application? When I see the ad, like practically, how does that work?
Well, let me blow your mind for a second, because when we talk about culture, we speak about our culture anchors, which I've shared with you just now around people, so energizing people, delivery, and then, of course, our client
The
mindset.
client mindset.
Now, these core values we've actually stripped out and we've packaged in terms of what we call leadership principles. Now, our leadership principles are behaviors that is our North Star from an organizational perspective. And these leadership behaviors are actually weaved and intertwined into all of our people practices. So that includes our talent, our succession planning, our leadership academies that we've got, how we define talent, how we hire talent. And actually, that's what we are utilizing when we talk about our culture screener upfront.
Okay.
And that culture screener, the method or the format that we actually engage with our potential hires is through what we call a situational judgment. So we provide real time scenarios to get an indication of how this individual will actually behave and think in those scenarios and whether
Brilliant.
that aligns to our principles and our core values at Capitec.
I love that. And then there's a score after the SJT, and I pass it or I don't.
It's a very contentious one. When you talk about the pass or fail, when we talk about psychometric assessments, and
Yeah.
I do think that assessments, I don't want to say have gotten a bad rap. I think on the one side, if you make it through, it's the best thing in the world. If you don't,
You blame it.
it's not the best thing. But I think for us, we utilize assessments as part of the process.
Yes.
So, yes, we do look at the holistic view of the feedback. We interrogate the information, and then we make a call to say whether you proceed on to the next phase or not.
Okay.
The next phase then goes into our ability assessments. And then, last but not least, we move over into the personality or behavioral components. And as I've shared, it is robust, and that's only the first kind of 2 or 3 phases that candidates do have to go through. Now, from that perspective, we then go into our interview rounds. And I think something that was quite important for us around the hiring experience was making
Mm.
sure that our hiring leaders are well equipped.
Yes.
When we talk about interviews, it is a skill. Being able to make
100%.
sure somebody is relaxed, they are able to really be the best version of themselves
Mm.
when they engage in terms of a prospective employer. And I think that is really our emphasis of
Yeah.
what we want to achieve. Um,
If I, sorry, Suzanne, can just
yeah,
also double click there. I often think that part you just mentioned gets overlooked, where we assume all hiring managers understand how to interview. It's like, no, we can all do this. It's not a skill. I'm just going to use my intuition. I know what I want. Um, if and I think more organizations should actually emphasize equipping hiring panels and hiring managers around what are we looking, so what are the foundational principles, but then also how do we understand and observe what we are looking for? How do we match that back to this leadership principles as an example, or these pillars that we discussed? And I think therein lies an opportunity to also empower and upskill panel members and hiring managers, which, very similar to the psychometrics, often has got a bad rap around, oh, HR is flooding my diary with interviews. I have to do this again. As opposed to, yo, I get to, see what I did there, interview top talent who wants to work for Capitec and join this incredible group of minds that sit in our business.
and I think you're so spot on. And essentially, it starts with that partnership. If we think about the trends from a futuristic perspective, you can see how the people practices and where it starts off in terms of business planning actually comes together.
Yes.
And that partnership between your HR or acquisition professionals and business leaders, when we go out to market, we need to make sure that we've got a very good understanding of the strategy so that we can present and position the right candidates to actually support and take that business forward. And our hiring leaders are invested. When we talk about hiring the best, a subsequent component is what we call a bar raiser interview. So for us,
Mm.
it's really and truly making sure that the individuals that we bring on board um, bring their holistic selves that can contribute, that can challenge our thinking, and really make an impact and add value to grow this business going forward. And for that, we have an amazing partnership with our hiring managers, who they
Well
will
done.
clear out their diaries. They will support and partner to make sure that that engagement and experience is a great one. Because even though somebody might not be appointed, at the end of the day, they might be a client or a prospective
Yes.
client.
Yes. Or at least be talking about you around a braai. Um,
Exactly.
Suzanne, often when we talk about hiring experiences, it's the small things that make the difference. One of the things I heard you just say now that really interests me and I think is phenomenal is encouraging candidates to speak their mind and even argue in the first engagement with a potential employer. Like, that's daunting in itself, right? So, hey, Fran, welcome to Capitec. We know you really badly want to work here. Please feel free to argue, or at least, argue your mind or your point across in this conversation. It's completely welcome and, in fact, encouraged.
Yes. We like to disrupt ourselves. If we think about innovation, and innovation comes from challenge, it comes
Mm.
from different ways of thinking. We talk about diversity, and it does not only link in terms of demographics, but it does link in terms of a way of thought. We encourage people to come share their point of view. And specifically, if we think about the generational differences, we're now hiring youngsters coming in. They have a completely different view of the world. They have side businesses where they're
Yeah.
actually CEOs of their own business. Individuals have side hustles as they are supporting their families. We're moving into this gig economy that is exploding. And I think as an organization who keeps trend, we encourage that engagement,
Sure.
and we enjoy it.
Sure. I often link that back to mindset around am I threatened or am I encouraging?
Yeah.
Um, Even to this day, like 2024, we still hear so many conversations of people either ignoring or rejecting the millennial differences. And I often listen to these podcasts or conversations and I go, aren't we past that? Like half your employee count or head count is going to be Gen Zs and Gen Alphas in already. I mean, the millennials, I'm a millennial, and Gen Zs and Gen Alpha, and what else other abbreviation we're going to give the next flavor coming in. They're here, and they are different. And if the mindset is an outward one that is embracing of that, I think again it just aids to this experience that one is giving.
Absolutely. If I consider, and I'm slightly going to pivot into our graduate program, these are individuals, and we talk about our future leader program
Mm.
that we actually invite, we give them problems to solve, we ask them to innovate, think out the box, come and contribute, sit on our leadership or our mancos.
Wow.
And it's really because we want to tap into every and any opportunity to make things better for our clients. And if you go onto our websites or about Capitec, you know that this kind of mantra around better never rests is really true to the heart of this organization. We continuously want to challenge ourselves, and from a hiring perspective and prospective individuals who join the company, that is what we're going to expect from them as well.
Phenomenal. Suzanne, I love the fact that you brought up graduates and future leaders because I would love to hear your opinion and thinking around talent mobility, right? It's often, again, a buzzword that we throw around. Um, but what is the Capitec way around mobilizing and moving talent?
Oh, fantastic. This is something I am super passionate about. And we have a phenomenal individual, Eugene Brockman, that leads this for us as part of the talent team. So essentially, we think about hiring on the one side, and that is, of course, external attraction. At Capitec, our internal hiring practices is something that we're very proud of. Over 40% of all of our hiring that we conclude is actually internal.
Wow.
So that's our promotions, our transfers, etc. But if we think about the scarcity of skill out there, we about 2 years ago really started to think on how do we solve this challenge around tech skills,
Yeah.
and how better to invest than to invest in our own people. And we know that the demand and supply from a technical perspective is quite segregated at the moment.
Yes.
And we, as so many other companies, actually had a disproportionate external hiring practice. So we're slowly shifting towards saying that we actually want to invest even more than we already do in terms of our internal individuals,
Mm.
whilst also actually closing the gap in terms of our technical and data capabilities. So, about 2 years ago, we started with this initiative where we said, right, we have frontline staff who are phenomenal. They understand this business, they understand our products. We have individuals who work within our contact centers, they understand our clients extremely well as the business of Capitec. But It has been a challenge for them to transition into tech skills because typically, as a hiring leader, we want experience, which
Yes.
these individuals might not necessarily have. And we received phenomenal investment and support from our senior leaders within the business to sponsor an initiative where we take 50 individuals from our branch frontline network. We actually invest in them for 12 months. We teach them technical skills, capabilities, whilst they continue to earn their salary. And we guarantee them an opportunity within our tech and data environment. And in so doing, they are able to pivot their career without necessarily taking a salary cut or a pay cut, but being able to shift their career into technology and data through support of the company. Yeah, and so far we have received phenomenal feedback. We had our first pilot last year of 50 individuals, and we're busy with our second intake, and our first cohort of Java developers
Wow.
are actually coming off
Wow.
and being absorbed in August, coming from our frontline staff and network. And it just goes to show that for those individuals who are willing, capable, motivated, excited, and have a passion, you can go very far.
That's incredible. Two things come to mind. One of the trends that I'm speaking about at our event next week is called upskill for retention. And it's literally that. Like, can you identify an area in the business that you need capability, that the supply of this capability is really hard to get or very expensive? I mean, if you just think of the tech environment, it's just been headhunting and poaching left, right, and center. Developers' salaries and the exposure they have abroad. I mean, it's crazy at the moment. And so we go, okay, we have current employees who we identify with future capability. Let's upskill them. Proactive succession planning and retention. That's just brilliant. And I want the audience to hear it doesn't have to be this difficult jargon and this futuristic project. It sounds quite practical, right? Have a cohort, have a pilot, test it out, gather feedback, see if it's successful. If not, why not? Where can we pivot? And then, very important, what I heard you say is senior leadership buy-in. Like, this needs to be top-down driven as an initiative that senior leaders put their stamp of approval on.
Absolutely. And I think again, we're so fortunate from a leadership perspective. Again, we passionate about our own people. And you spoke about retention. And I think what employees are looking for is they're looking for that career prospect.
Yes.
People want to grow, and it's not only about growing hierarchically, it's about growing from within. And I do have to mention, a project like this is not something that gets delivered in isolation. We
Yeah.
have absolute phenomenal partners. We have our academies in terms of technical skills and capabilities. We've got a people support team who really help us. And one of the big things that I actually do have to mention just on that we have spent a lot of time on is really around relocation. It's something
Mm.
that we learn. It's something that you don't necessarily think of at the onset because Capitec is all over South Africa, and our head office are based in Stellenbosch, Bellville, and Johannesburg. So to ensure that we provide equal opportunity and that everybody can actually have a chance to participate, we had to review our relocation practices to make sure that
Sure.
that's sound, and also very clear in terms of our onboarding.
Mm.
And when we say onboarding, it is a transition and making sure, again, we set these individuals up for success, where they
Yes.
transition from a very structured work environment into a head office work environment. There are families that relocate. So it was important for us in terms of the onboarding that it is not just around skills and work, but it's the full
That
end-to-end
holistic.
psychosocial
Yes.
well-being as we set them up.
100%. Oh, Suzanne, I love this. I mean, we can go on for hours, but I actually want to finish the conversation off by picking your brain on future trends. Where do you think what's new, what's happening, what are you experiencing or reading or thinking about, or even potentially embarking on from a future perspective?
Sure. I think what an amazing question. Look, maybe I can just highlight a couple of components that I think we are experiencing. And again, there is so much more. We started off this conversation in terms of experience.
Yes.
And I think that when we talk about talent analytics, that is going to be something that will be elevated even more. We've now got generative AI, we've got automation, and that I do believe is going to be the differentiator for a lot of organizations. So
Yeah.
I think let's maybe start off with that point. Secondly, from a skills perspective, we are seeing almost blended skills.
Mm.
So it's no longer an HR professional is an HR professional, but it's an HR professional with data analytics, generative AI, machine learning capabilities. And I think that that is so important for this community also listening to the podcast to be a reminder to all of us to also invest in ourselves.
Yes.
As professionals to stay abreast of not only the HR trends, but actually the broader technology trends out there, so that we are future fit and we can support and advise our businesses.
Mm.
And I think last but not least, it's the shift towards skills. And I know that this is something that is very visible and available. But if we think about what that practically means, it's really the ability to be able to transition from your job descriptions. It is when you go to market, it's not looking for a job, it is looking for an
A
individual
skill
that
set.
has skill sets, capabilities, but also very important, we're seeing the elevation of that behavioral component. So it's the
Mm.
balance between technical skills and capability and how you behave and
Yeah.
how you contribute in that way, not only to the company, but understanding that the work that you do adds value to society and the communities that you support as well.
Spot on.
So yeah, those would be, I think, the three components that we are seeing. Um, yeah.
Yeah. No, 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 spot on. I think, I mean, I haven't shared the 10 trends with you just as this full disclosure to the audience. And the three you mentioned are three in the top 10.
Oh, that's
So,
wonderful, you know.
yeah. So, but you know what is interesting? So here's a bit of a prelude to next week, audience. If you're in Cape Town, the 25th of July, we have our quarterly event. But one of the interesting pieces around this is, especially when you talk generative AI and skills, is the willingness for individuals to engage with it as opposed to just sit on the sideline. Like a lot of it, especially in the AI space, is unknown. I mean, we're dabbling in chat GPT, but I mean, that's the surface. There's so much. You spoke about analytics and talent insights. There's so much to do in that space and to remain relevant. I think if we are reskilling ourselves in terms of personal development and career growth, I think the mindset of getting the hands dirty and playing with it, but then also being in an organization that celebrates people trying to work with this and trying to figure it out and bringing it into your job space. I think that's going to be the key. I mean, the number one question is, oh, am I going to lose my job? Is the AI taking my job? Well, the answer is no. If you don't learn to work with it, you'll become irrelevant. So it's a partnership and a collaboration with it. And there's incredible research and informal talks and podcasts around how to do this, which we can maybe leave for another episode. But yeah, Suzanne, spot on. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been an absolute blast having you here, and I'm super excited to see you next week. Thank you for joining at the event. And yeah, maybe just a parting thought to the audience from your side.
Oh, wow, Francha, thank you so much. And you're an incredible host. Really looking forward to the event next week. Maybe just a final thought in terms of what you've mentioned from a generative AI perspective. I heard of a phenomenal quote or saying which says, in a digital world, let me just correct myself. In a digital world, the future is human.
Yo.
And I think the statement that you made around how we work with the technology, how we shape ourselves to be able to be future fit as we know the technology will evolve. As an example, when we think about engaging with generative AI, you have to ask the right question, which means we
Yes.
are shifting from an execution delivery to a thinking, asking the right questions to get the result. And I think that awareness of the shift is important.
Lovely.
Yeah, so
No, super, super cool. And just FYI, the next thing coming is regenerative AI. So that's the machine having the ability to do that thinking you just discussed by itself. Mind blowing
mind
stuff.
blowing.
Suzanne, thank you so much. You must have an incredible rest of the day. Audience, thank you for listening and tuning in. If this episode excited you, please hit the subscribe and like button, share with friends, colleagues, anybody that you believe can benefit from listening to this awesome conversation. Suzanne, thank you so much.
Thank you, Francois. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Cheers.
Bye bye.